درسش بخوانین، پیش ببرین تا باشه که انشالله یک زندگی عالی داشته باشین. گفتم میتونم که رشته روانشناسی مجموعاً 8 سمستر داره و هر سمستر شما 6 ماه می باشه در پانتون آزاد افغانستان و اساتید فوق العاده خاص و با تجربه بر شما از آن تدریس صورت میگیره، از رفرنس های مختلف، کورس های خودآموز در پلویش تا باشه که انشالله با استاندارد بین‌المللی شما پیش برین. و به این ترتیب گفتم میتونیم که رشته های دیگر هم در پانتون آزاد افغانستان هست، از جمله طب معالجوی که 7 سال هست و شمایی که علاقمند هستین باید فارغ صنف 12 و امتحان کنکور پانتون آزاد افغانستان را همچنان سپری کنین. این شرط اصلی می باشه. انشالله که امیدوار هستم که موضوعات را بر شما رسانده باشم و در پلویش ما رشته های کامپیوتر ساینس، تجارت آنلاین، ادبیات زبان انگلیسی داریم. کسایی که میخواین سطح زبان انگلیسیشون را افزایش بدن، کسایی که میخواین تجارت آنلاین را در خانه خودشان آغاز کنن، درآمد داشته باشن، عاید خوب داشته باشن، شما میتونین که در پانتون آزاد افغانستان یک اسکیل جدید، یک مهارت جدید را بیاموزین و انشالله که باشه که به دوستایتان، خانوادهتان کمک شوین. و به این ترتیب گفتم میتونم که من در چت باکس نمبرای مسئولین را همراهتان شریک میسازم. کسایی که علاقه‌مند هستین انشالله میتونین که با ما مسیج بگذارین. معلومات مکمل همراه شما در شخصی در واتساپ شریک خواهد شد و کسایی که باز انشالله علاقه‌مند بودن و میخواستن امتحان کنکور سپری کنن و راه پیدا کنن در رشته های چون طب معالجوی، روانشناسی، تجارت آنلاین، کامپیوتر ساینس و ادبیات زبان انگلیسی، انشالله که لینک گروپ همراهتان شریک میشه و شما میتونین که امتحان را پاس کنین بخیر و رشته دلخواهتان راه پیدا کنین. دیگه جور صحتمند باشین. یک دنیا سپاس از اینکه وقت دادین به من. انشالله که بخیر با شما هستیم. امیدوار هستم که از این سمینار امشب همچنان لذت ببرین و مفید واقع شه بر هر یک شما. تشکر. وقت بخیر.
تشکر از شما بانو سومافاین. Thank you very much, Mr. Mofain, for your clear and meaningful contribution. Now it's my great honor to invite our respected guest and presenter of today's seminar, Ms. Hadeel Khawatmy, to begin her presentation. Ms. Hadeel, we are pleased to have you with us today. Please proceed.
Great. Thank you very much for the amazing, introduction. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very honored actually to have the opportunity to present at your university and share some of my knowledge with your students, maybe and hopefully actually get them to be more interested in psychology, especially, like cognitive psychology. So I will do my best today to keep the presentation as fun as possible. I will leave, a space for everyone to ask questions at the very end. So there will be plenty of space to ask your questions, preferably in English, because I don't understand Persian unless someone will be, translating for me. I will start with introducing myself. My name is Hadeel Khawatmy, originally from Syria, but I've been living in the Netherlands for around 10 years. I did my bachelor's and master's here. Now I'm finishing my master's now in applied cognitive psychology. So I'm specialized in cognitive psychology, and I would love actually to share some of my experiences with you today. And I did my best to choose actually a very fun subject with you. Today we're going to examine something extremely personal, your own thinking processes. Like every single student, when they choose psychology, the first thing they think about is, I want to learn psychology because I want to learn about, more about how I think, or I want to learn about myself more. And what's the best way to learn about yourself than actually learning about your own brain and how you think and why do you think the way you are actually doing that at the moment? So what we are going to learn about today is your own thinking processes. So that this is your judgments, decisions, and beliefs. This seminar is based on Daniel Kahneman's framework for, of the two modes of thinking. I have the book here. If you're interested actually in reading it later, it's called Thinking Fast and Slow for Daniel Kahneman. At the beginning, I was forced to read this book like 4 times, in a time frame of 4 different courses that I hated it at the beginning. But after reading it actually for fun, after finishing my courses, I figured out that it's a pretty fun book to read. It has a lot of examples that will actually make you understand the mechanism of thinking and the brain, and you can actually become a more rational thinker after reading this book. I'm not saying it's like the perfect image. It is an amazing book, actually. So the central claim is bold about that. We do not think in one unified rational way. We think in two fundamentally different ways, and they often conflict. End of this hour, you won't just understand the theory, you'll start like noticing it operating inside your own mind. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. So if you actually go to the next slide, please, so that we can proceed. I hope that everyone has access to the comment section so that, you can make this session interactive. I will present a problem at the beginning that is called the bat and the ball. And I want you all to think fast. Give the fastest answer you would think about. A bat and a ball cost $1.10 in total. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Don't think about it. Give the first answer that comes to your mind, because I would like to see actually, what do students have access to the messages so that they can answer? If not, I can just proceed with that. Oh, 2010. So you think that the ball costs $2.10. Interesting. I still haven't had an answer. Can students send a message? If you can't send a message, you can just unmute yourself and say your answers. It's okay. No? Okay. So I would assume actually that all of you had the costume answer, actually, that most of the people fall in when they try to. Yes? I see here a hand up. Can you please give an answer? No? It's a psychology seminar, so if you can give your answers and interact, that would be amazing, because psychology is about interaction. Okay, I assume nobody will answer. Okay, great. So I wanted you to answer this silently. Don't overthink it, just respond intuitively. And most people would say actually, yes, was ha, I guess. Hello?
Okay, Ms. Hadeel, I would like to translate this question to them in Persian so they can know and they can answer.
Oh, that would be great.
خب دوست عزیز اینجا یک سوال است که گفتن یک بت است و یک توپ یک خب یک بت و یک توپ هر دوشان 1.10 دلار $1 و 10 سنت در تمامشان مجموعشان $1 و 10 سنت است. گفته که یک توپ $1 کاست میکنه و بتش $1 زیادتر از توپ ما کاست میکنه. این گفتن که قیمت آخرش چند میشه. این فقط بر شما یک سوال داده و از شما یک جواب بسیار قسم جواب خواسته که زیادتر سرش کوشش کنین، فکر نکنین، فقط چیزی که در فکرتون میانه برشون بگوین. تمام کسایی که حرف دادن نمیتونن، چت باکس اوپن است، میتونن که در چت باکس جواب خود بگوین.
Great, thank you for the translation. $2. Okay. Any more questions? Any more answers, I mean? Sorry. I see here 210, 210, 5, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. I'll wait for a couple of seconds. Okay. Now, this is amazing. Thank you for the interaction. I see here a lot of answers that say $2, and a lot of them said 10 cents, and some of them said like 5 cents. Now, most people actually, generally, if you ask the question and answer it immediately, most people would say actually 10 cents, which is actually the general answer that everyone gives most of the time. But that answer is incorrect. $2 is incorrect as well. 2.10 is incorrect as well. Now, can you please go to the next slide because I have the answer there. Okay, great. I tried here to explain the answer as mathematically as possible. You're gonna think, boo, psychology is boring. It's about mathematical equations. No, it is not. I tried to do it myself, but it is not a mathematical equation. It's just to explain to you that the first answer that comes to your head doesn't have to be all the time accurate. It doesn't have to be all the time correct. And the correct answer is actually 5 cents because, if the question was saying a bat and a ball cost $1.10 in total. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. So you have the price of the ball is the price plus $1. So it has to be 5 cents because if it's 5 cents and the bat costs $1.05, then they have the same price plus $1 by the other one. But logically, if you think about it very fast, you're going to come up with the answer that says 10 cents, which is actually what's almost everyone on earth, when you ask them the question, they have this answer. Unless they think about it, I've seen some students actually had 5 cents, which is correct. But it's when you think about it longer, you can come up with the correct answer. But if you say 10 cents, it is incorrect. But that's absolutely okay, because this is what I wanted to achieve with this question. Now, here's what's fascinating. Almost everyone gives the same wrong answer, which is very funny, actually. Now, can you please go to the next slide? Now, I have here explained the system one, no, the one before. Yes, I've explained, I wanted to explain in this seminar what's the difference between the two systems, System 1 and System 2. As explained in the book Thinking Fast and Slow for Hadeel Khawatmy, the word System 1 and the word System 2 don't mean together that this is the name of a brain region in your head. No, this is actually metaphoric names that Hadeel Khawatmy made in order actually to explain what does he mean with System 1 and what does he mean with System 2. So there is no specific place for these two things in your head. So he describes two modes of thought. System 1 is fast, automatic, intuitive, which is actually what you just used when you gave the incorrect answers to the question that I just presented to you. The answer seems obvious, but it doesn't have to be correct all the time. And you have System 2, and System 2 is slow, deliberate, analytical. So, as I mentioned before, these are not literal brain structures, they're metaphors and describe patterns of processing. Think of System 1 as autopilot and think of System 2 as manual control. So this is actually what's the difference. I'm going to explain more about it later, and I'm going to show you in details what System 1 means and what System 2 means so that you can understand more about how do you think and why do you think the way you do, actually. I'm seeing here questions. If you can, everyone, what is the topic? The topic is about actually why do you think the way you think? It's two minds, one brain. So I just started and I'm going to explain more about it. So hopefully it will become clear with time. So just sit and listen to it. Now, the problem is manual control doesn't activate as often as we assume. So can you please go to the next slide so that I can explain what is System 1 exactly means? Yes. Now, as you can see here, System 1 is constantly active. So it is active all the time. It is actually how your brain works while thinking 24 hours a day. I mean, unless you're sleeping, let's say 16 hours a day if you have a healthy sleep of 8 hours a day. So when you see a face, you instantly detect emotion. For example, how System 1 works, since it's fast, it's effortless. You see a person, you see your friend, and your friend is sad, and you see this this look on his face, he's sad. And the first thing that your brain perceives is that this person is sad. And you didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to analyze his face, you know, like facial expressions. You didn't have to pause and look in order to perceive that he is sad. This is system one. System one is what comes fast to your head, to your brain. It's the first thing you think about. And like, for example, another example, when you read a simple sentence, you know, you cannot stop reading, especially if it's your mother language and you're reading like a book, and your brain starts actually reading on an autopilot, you know, like setting. And sometimes you just like read the whole page and then realize like, oh, I read it, but I don't understand what I just read, but you read it correctly. So this is actually how system one works, which is the automatic way of you thinking all the time. And for example, I have like one more example. When a sudden noise, you know, when you hear a sudden noise, you orient it immediately. So if something bombs or something happens or something falls behind you, you just like look behind you immediately, which is actually something, or your brain gave your body and, you know, like all your senses, how do you call it, signal, so that you can react immediately to it without thinking. So this is when you think without really thinking about something. This is system one. So this is the first thing that you do after you perceive an information. So this is automatic cognition. And system one works actually through associations and patterns in your head. It generates impressions, intuitions, and feelings. And most importantly, it feels effortless. And because it feels effortless, it feels right. And this is why this is the first thing that you say or that you respond with. And as I mentioned here, it's effortless, it's emotional, it's pattern-based, and it's always on. You cannot shut system one off at all. It doesn't need to be activated, it's always activated. Okay, please go to the next slide. Yes. Now, why system one exists? System one evolved for survival. So imagine early humans hearing movement in the bushes. And, you know, there's no time for cost-benefit analysis. And for fast reactions meant survival. And this is actually how system one used to save humans in the earlier ages. Like system one is the first intuitive thought that comes to your head. And this is why it was meant survival. System one prioritizes speed over precision. So as I mentioned before, it doesn't have to be correct all the time, but it is fast. So it gives a fast answer, you know, but it doesn't have to be accurate all the time. But at the same time, it can save you, so it's not incorrect all the time. I know like all of this might sound somehow complicated, but with more examples and more explanation, it will become clear, especially when you learn more about system two. So you have system one enables expertise. So for example, you have an experienced driver who is driving his truck and he brakes before, you know, like consciously identify the danger. Or if you have like a chess master, for example, I don't know how to play chess. If I want to sit and play chess, I know the basic rules. So if I want to win, I need to think. And I need to deeply think about what is the best move, what should I do next, what did he do? So I need like to analyze all the time and tire my brain and have a lot of like thoughts at the same time and a lot of analysis in my head. And this is why it takes a longer time. But if you are a chess master and you know how to play chess very well and you're very smart at playing chess, that it is automatic, this is when you actually have this expertise in system one. So system one helps experts to perform the moves that are actually difficult for other people, but in a very easy way and a very, you know, like effortless way. So a chess master just knows the right movement. They don't think about it. They just see it and move it very fast. So actually their expertise lay in their system one. So system one is not flawed by design. It is brilliant, but it has like blind spots. And we're going to talk about these blind spots right now. Can you please go to the next slide? Yes. Now the weaknesses of system one hates effort. It's very lazy. It hates effort, but it is working all the time. So it just gives the answer without making any effort about thinking about it or trying to analyze it. So when faced with a difficult question, it often substitutes an easier one. Let me give you an example. If I ask someone, or like I enter a room and I see an older friend, and I ask to that one friend, no, that's bad. That's a bad example. Let's say, for example, like you meet someone and you're talking with them and you want to ask them, how happy are you with your life overall? So you're asking them about their life overall. So it's like from the day of birth until today. So it's like a very large lifespan to ask about whether the person is happy. But that person will absolutely, the first thing they have into their head is the system one answer, which is like system one might substitute how do you feel right now and answer the bigger question. So if that person is sad at that moment and you ask them about whether they were happy in their entire life, they're going to say no. If they're mad at that moment and you ask them whether they're happy in their entire life, they're going to say no, I've had a very mad life, because they would choose their feelings at that same moment and base their answer on that without them thinking about it, because they're using their system one actually to have this specific answer. And because system one is pretty lazy, and he just like, okay, I know what I feel right now, so I'm gonna just use this feeling and answer that big question. So you think you answered the big existential question, but you answered a temporary emotional state. So system one creates coherence quickly, sometimes at the expense of truth. So the answers he gives don't have to be truth all the time. It has, they just give an answer, Can you please go to the next slide? Okay, that's great. Now we're going to jump to system two. You're going to think system one. Okay, we understand it's effortless. It's the first thing we say. It's the first thing we think about. It's based on our biases. System two is logical. It is actually more deliberate. It's controlled. It is energy consuming. It activates when things require effort. So for example, try multiplying 17 times 24 in your head. You can't just give a fast answer unless you're an expert, because if you're an expert in mathematics, then you use your system one to give the answer very quickly. If you're not an expert, if you're like an average person, which is like most of the people on earth, you just need to pause at least for a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes to do the math in your head, or to use a pen and a paper and then give your answer, because it's not like 7 times 10 so that you say 70 very quick, but it's 17 times 24. So notice what happens to your body. Actually, what happens in your brain reflects on your body. So your body language, what happens to you, your body state, your physical health state differs and is different every time actually you have, like a different mental state, because they're like very much connected. So at that moment, when you try to think and to perform actually an effortful thinking process, or like perform that, which is like 17 times 24, it can be like 725 times 122, for example. So your attention narrows, your cognitive load increases, and you feel mental strain. So you start feeling that in your body, like, oh, I need to find an answer, I need to think about it. And that's system two. System two is the one that does the difficult work, that has the thinking, that needs to have the logical thinking in it. So it's the way of your brain trying to seek for the correct answer, not just an answer based on my own biases or what I already know. So system two is more accurate than system one. So it's capable of reasoning, comparison, and correction, but it's actually, expensive. It's expensive for your brain because it's like it's effortful, and your brain is designed to conserve energy, and because it's effortless, it feels right, and this is how your brain thinks, and this is why system 2 is expensive, because it needs energy and your body tries to spare that as much as possible, but system 2 thinks like, no, we can't spare energy. We need to do our best to get the correct answer at the end. Could you please go to the next slide? Yes. System 2 is lazy, and that's one of the weaknesses actually that System 2 has, which is sad but true at the same time. It is crucial. System 2 can override System 1, which is actually bad if you don't think for a longer time, or try actually to get away from your biases, because if you get too biased into believing into something, then your system 1 and system 2 won't differ at all with the way of you thinking and perceiving actually information. So system 2 can override system 1, but it often doesn't. So if system 1 produces a plausible answer, system 2 usually just accepts it. It's just like, okay, that's the answer. So that's what happened with the bat and the ball problem. You know, system 1 said 10 cents, system 2 said, oh, sounds fine, sounds logical. And this is why why people give the answer of 10 cents immediately without thinking longer about, no, it has to be 10 cents more, because if the ball costs $0, then the ball can cost $1, but then you have $1 total. Where did that 10 cent go? And this is why the ball costed 5 cents and the bat was $1.05, because it's the same price plus $1, but the total together was $1.10. But your system 2 actually, when they think, okay, I've seen it, it looks like it's 10 cents. This is why I gave that answer. And this is a problem with system 2 that makes it actually lazy, because it avoids effort, it endorses system 1 by default, and activates only when necessary. And that problem with the bat and the ball didn't look very urgent or necessary to get system 2 activated immediately. Can you please go to the next slide? Okay, the one before? Oh, there is one slide that is, oh yeah, it's the slide after. You mix between 10 and 11. Yeah, so if you go to 11 and okay, that's great. Now, in the book, Thinking Fast and Slow, it actually dives deeper into the heuristics, which are mental shortcuts, and they're like efficient and, you know, but sometimes they're misleading. You're gonna ask, what are the heuristics? They are the rules of thumb. So they allow us to navigate a complex world without analyzing every detail. Without them, without the heuristics themselves, decision making would be paralyzing. So they actually create how do you call it? Shortcuts create systematic errors. So let's examine a few. If I show you an answer, I'm going to show you some examples of what the heuristics actually are, and you will understand more how they're related to system 1, how they're related to system 2. If you need to know more information and you want to learn more in depth about them, you can read the book, which is very fun. It has a lot of examples. Can you please go to the 10th slide, one before? Okay, now the first heuristic I'm going to talk about today is the availability heuristic. And the availability heuristic actually, for example, if dramatic examples come easily to mind, we assume they are common. So, you know, like we all watch the news and we all watch the media. If we don't, our dads are, I don't know if your dad's is the same, but my dad is insane about the news. He watches them like all the time. So even if you don't want to listen, you have to listen to them. So plane crashes feel frequent because, you know, like the only thing you see in the news is whether a plane crashed or fell or something, people died in a plane. So this is why it feels very scary, and you see it in the media all the time. But you don't hear that often in the news about a car accident, you know, or someone who fell off a bike or a crash of something else. But because, you know, planes are bigger and they're like more serious and they might actually hurt people on Earth, this is why you hear more about them in the news. So since they feel frequent, the plane crashes, because they are vivid and covered heavily in the media. So, but statistically, driving is far more dangerous. You know, like if you think about it statistically, you have too many cars that are driving in the streets, and not all drivers are very experienced, so the car accident is more frequent and more likely actually to happen. But we fear the plane crash more because you hear more about it, and this is why it feels more serious, even though like a car accident is more likely to happen. And this is actually what the availability heuristic actually explains. System 1 substitutes how easily can I recall examples instead of, you know, what are the actual probabilities. So if you want to like mention an example of a crash, you think about the plane crash because you've heard more about it. But if you think about the numbers, the number says actually that the actual probabilities are lower. So the ease of recall becomes a proxy for frequency. I'm seeing here a lot of comments from students. I'm gonna get back to them at the end of the seminar so that other students can. Low speed. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I can speak in low speed. Sure. So what I mentioned here is that availability heuristic, we judge frequency by ease of recall. The more I can recall something and remember that something happened, the more likely for it to happen. So I expect it to happen more. Can you please go to the next slide? Like the 12th one. Yeah, great. The second heuristic of today is the anchoring effect. And the anchoring effect actually, if you, even irrelevant numbers influence actually estimates. So if I ask, for example, oh, that's a very fun example. If I ask, for example, was Gandhi, I think all of you know Mahatma Gandhi, older or younger than 140 when he died? So all of us would think 140 years. That's actually absurd. It's a very old age. He can't be 140 before he died. So you know that this isn't the correct answer, but the answer you give will not be 20 years old and will not be 30 years old. You actually will follow the number I gave you and give actually a number that is close to it. So you're going to say, for example, 100 or a maximum of 110 to make it actually more likely for it to be, which is like how old he is. And at the same time, you won't be like very far. So anchoring effect is that initial numbers influence judgments. So when I said 140, you thought about a number that is close to 140, and the number 140 was the anchor. An anchor means the set point of actually, I literally manipulated your thoughts. If I said it was Gandhi, you don't know who Gandhi is, for example. If I say like, was Danielle 50 when he died, or like younger, and you're gonna like be between 60 and 30 to 40, but you will not think about he was like 110 or 102 when he died, because the number I gave you was the anchor of our conversation, was the anchor that I gave you at the beginning, and this is how I influenced your answer. Why is that? Because system 1 automatically uses available numbers as reference points, and the reference point at this moment was the 140 in this example. So anchoring shows how fragile our independence of judgment really is. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, now this is a fun heuristic I'm going to talk about today, which is confirmation bias. We all do it. Everyone on earth does the confirmation bias and actually has faced an example with confirmation bias. We seek confirming evidence. This is how the human beings actually work and think during their daily life. System 1 prefers coherence, and it seeks information that confirms existing beliefs. As human beings, we're biased. If we believe in something, we need to confirm that everything on earth relies on this something, because we believe it's true, it has to be true. So system 2 could question assumptions, but often it becomes the defense attorney for system 1, constructing arguments to justify prior intuitions. We don't reason to discover truth. We often reason to defend identity. So, I mean, I know that's a hard pill to swallow, but for example, like if I do believe, for example, that the sky is purple, I won't go to the internet and search for, is the sky pink? No, I would search, is the sky purple, so that I confirm what I believe in, because as human beings, we love to see that we are correct. We believe in correct things. System 1 does the confirmation bias. System 2 can have the opportunity actually to be like, it can be something else. But this is when you think long about it. But since we're biased, we follow what we believe in, which makes us actually less rational. it doesn't mean like a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. It's a good thing to be irrational sometimes, but you need to learn sometimes how to be rational, especially with making, like more serious decisions in your life. You need to think more about it and not be too driven to your beliefs, too driven to your biases, because it is normal. But if you want to like be the mega extreme great best thinker on earth, you can't be driven to your beliefs and biases. You need to have like a more rational way of thinking, and this is how confirmation bias, for example, if you want to become less biased and seeking confirmation bias, you can search what is the color of the sky instead of is the sky actually purple, like the way I believe in it. And this is how you become more rational, and at the same time you are less driven to your beliefs. Can you please go to the next slide? Now, this one is connected to the previous one, which is called overconfidence. Confidence doesn't mean accuracy all the time, which is actually something that most of us don't feel when they actually act. Most of the time, if you're confident of your answer, you think you're correct because I'm confident, I'm positive, 100% positive, this is the correct answer. But that doesn't mean you're accurate or that you have a good answer. It's just because you are biased, and we are biased. We have our own beliefs, of something. So confidence is a feeling and accuracy is an outcome. So, they are weakly correlated, and this is why they cannot be the same thing. And, like, for example, when our internal narrative is coherent, we feel certain, but coherence is not the same as correctness. And system one creates strong confidence signals even when evidence is weak. So you don't have to have evidence for your answer. System one just be like, no, I'm confident. This is the answer. It's correct. And this is why you say it. You don't have to say it. That's why it jumps into your head, because system one is like, I don't care, I'm confident. But that's why he's not accurate all the time, because you cannot put an outcome and a feeling, like it's like in mathematics, you can't put a meter and a kilogram, and so 1 meter plus 1 kilogram. You can't actually put them together or say like 1 kilo minus 1 meter. You can't subtract these from each other. And this is how this works. Would you please go to the next slide so that we discuss the last heuristic of heuristics? You have here cognitive ease. So when information is easy to read, familiar, or repeat, it feels true. Fluency creates credibility, and that's why actually repetition increases belief. So if something gets repeated and you hear more about it, you believe in it more. And like that's why branding works, like because brands, if you hear more about them, you believe that they are good, you believe that they are actually better than other stuff, because repeatedly you're hearing more about them. And this is why misinformation spread, because if a misinformation actually gets repeated and you hear it from multiple people, it spreads, and more people believe in it, and this is how it spreads even more. So when processing feels easy, we trust it more. Can we go to the next slide? Yes, now. System 2 wakes up when something feels off, or when we know we must justify ourselves. So you have accountability increases, analytical thinking, and if I tell you, for example, must defend your reasoning publicly, you slow down. You're not fast anymore. You think more about it. And this is actually system 2 activation. As I mentioned here in the slide, you can see there is surprise. So there is a surprise or something that you wasn't thinking, like you're not expecting. This is when system 2 activates. And if something happens that you already expected, this is when system 1 activates, because it's easy. You don't think about it. You don't need any analysis in your head. And when there's a conflict, and it's when the stakes are high and accountability exists. So this is actually when system 2 activates, when there's something serious, when your brain thinks that's serious, I need to think more about it, I need the correct answer. This is actually when you use System 2, when you activate it in your head. And as I mentioned, you must defend your reasoning publicly. This is when, if you have an answer, and as I asked you at the beginning, what was the correct answer? And one of you said $2. $2 was the System 1 thinking, but if someone actually asks this person who said $2, please tell me, why is it $2? Can you please explain your answer? This is when you're gonna know, okay, I'm on spot, everyone is hearing me. No, I need to check whether my answer is really correct. And this is when System 2 activates, so that you can dive more into details, you can understand it more, so that you can explain it to people, because otherwise that's gonna be very embarrassing to you, giving an incorrect answer very confidently and trying to explain why is it correct when it's not. So when accountability exists, people tend to activate System 2 so that they don't look, weird, giving a very strange answer and saying, oh, this is correct because I don't know why. Nobody likes to be put in that position. And this is why we activate System 2, to find the correct answer and to explain it in a better way. If we get to the next slide now. Yes, great. The uncomfortable truth. System 1 dominates everyday's life. And System 2 is more like a supervisor who occasionally checks in. I don't know if most of you have a job, or they just, you're just a student who's studying right now. But if you are working somewhere and you have a supervisor, we know that they check in not all the time. They're on the lazy side, but when they come, they have accurate work, they correct the work, they do a good job, but they're not here all the time. This is why the responsibility is on the worker himself, which is the System 1. And this is the difference between them. So System 1 runs most of the time, and System 2 is the supervisor who comes when there's something serious to correct, or to give the right answer, or to try to think about the correct answer. So he puts the more effort, since he checks in rarely. And this explains actually financial bubbles, political polarization, medical misdiagnosis, and relationship misunderstandings, because we rely heavily on intuitions and rarely actually audit it. And this is the problem actually with us as human beings, and why we're less rational thinkers all the time, because we rely more on System 1. Could you please go to the next slide? Now, applications in psychology. In therapy, clients operate through automatic narratives. So, I'm a failure. People can be trusted. I always mess things up. These are System 1 constructions, but cognitive restructuring, is essentially System 2 training. So we slow down, we think more about it, we examine evidence, we generate alternatives. So therapy strengthens System 2's oversight. So if you go to a therapist and you're yeah, I think I'm a failure, I'm a very, for example, I can't do this, I can't do that. The therapist, it's not his job to give you an answer or tell you, you should do this in life. No, it's not up to the therapist to choose what's best for you. The therapist himself actually tries to make you understand more about what you think is best for you, and help you actually activating your System 2 more, so that you think more logically about everything, and you try to dive more into details of your life and try to find the solution. He will be just a guidance. So, even if you become a therapist, it's not up to you to choose what's best for people. And if you go to the therapist, he's not giving you actually an answer. He is redirecting you in order to find a solution and help you actually figure it out yourself. But it will feel more calming talking to someone and getting the help from that person, especially because he's a specialist and knows more about it and how to make you identify System 2 more and activate it and rely on it, and try to become a rational person. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, you cannot eliminate biases, but you can design, safeguards. For example, I have here some practical strategies about how to improve judgment, how actually to become a better thinker in life. you need to pause before high stakes decisions. If there is a very important decision for you to make, for example, you have $10,000 and you want to buy a car that costs $9,000. Um, I'm very sad. I'm very sorry. I'm trying to be as slow as possible, but I am a fast speaker. I will try to slow down. I was talking here about pausing before high stakes decisions. For example, you have $10,000 and you want to buy a car. It's your dream car that costs $9,000. But this $10,000 is all you have. It's all your money everywhere. So this is a high stakes decision because you know if you buy the car, you will lose 90% of your money. So this is actually why you need to pause before high stakes decisions, and this is how you become like better at judgments, better at making judgments. How do you improve judgments? You can actively look for disconfirming evidence. As I mentioned at the beginning, we tend to be biased, and we have a confirmation bias, which is one of the heuristics. And that means that if I believe the sky is purple, I'm gonna just seek to see, is the sky purple? And ask people, is the sky purple? But how to improve your judgment is when you try to find disconfirming evidence. Like, isn't the sky purple? Is the sky red, for example? Or what is the color of the sky? To try not to find the purple answer, but search for other answers. Try to find articles or results on the internet that say, no, it is not purple, you're incorrect, and accept it. When you accept it, you're better at judgments because you're less biased, you're less driven by your own beliefs and thoughts. And this is how you improve your judgment. You can use, for example, structured checklists. You can create environments where reasoning must be explained. Because as I mentioned, when people tell you, explain your reasoning, why do you have this answer? And this is I need to give a reason every time I have an answer. And this is how you activate system 2 more often. You have a better judgment. You try to seek for the good answer all the time. And this is actually how it works. And good judgment is not about intelligence. If you have a good judgment, doesn't mean you're smart. And if you have a bad judgment, doesn't mean you're stupid. No, at all. We're all smart in our own way. We just think differently, which what makes us human beings, which is normal. And it's about actually process design. Can you please go to the next slide as we're wrapping up? Okay, now I want you to reflect so that you can practice with yourself. Where in your life do you trust your intuition most? Finance, relationships, clinical work, leadership, any aspect of life? And where might overconfidence be quietly operating? Because, high confidence should sometimes trigger caution, not reassurance. If you go to the next slide, I have some examples for the students. I'm not sure if it's going to be easy to do them right now, but I have them. The next slide has examples. I've had here a quiz for the students, actually, but I'm not sure how easy it will be because I noticed at the beginning that you needed to translate that, but I can explain them per one. You have here system 1 or system 2. Answer it between yourself. So give the answer to yourself and I will tell you whether it's correct or not. The first one is going to be, you instantly recognize when someone looks angry. Is this system 1 or system 2? I'll give you a minute and then give the answer immediately. Someone says system 1, which is correct. Why is it system 1? You instantly recognize that someone looks angry, as I mentioned before. Facial emotion recognition, how do you recognize actually facial emotions, is automatic and effortless. So you don't consciously analyze eyebrows, angles, or mouth, like how curvy a mouth is. You don't think about that. You just see, okay, system 1, acts immediately when you say, okay, this person is sad. I don't have to measure how, down his mouth is or how sad his eyes look like. And this is why System 1 is amazing and brilliant, because he makes you actually know the answer immediately. So pattern recognition, this is what you call it in psychology, is System 1. You recognize something very quickly because you're familiar with it. Now, the second one, you calculate 23 times 17 in your head. Is this System 1 or System 2? 2. Couple of more answers. Everyone's fast. Great. Yes, indeed. It is System 2. As I mentioned before, this requires effort, attention, working memory. And if you feel mental strain, that's System 2 at work. So good job. Amazing. Everyone's giving correct answers. I'm glad. It means it was clear. I'm very happy. Now, the third one, you avoid flying because you recently saw news about a plane crash. Is this System 1 or System 2 activated? Oh, I'm very proud of everyone. Almost everyone is saying System 1, which is correct. This is the availability heuristic, which is the first heuristic we've explained today. Ease of recall, drives judgment, and it feels rational, but it's automatic. So this is why it's System 1. Now let's go to the fourth one. You double check your answer before submitting an examination. We all do that. Double check before submitting examination. Is this System 1 or System 2? Great. Now I see a lot of 2s. That's good. That's correct. Reviewing and monitoring your thinking is deliberate oversight. So that's System 2 supervising System 1. System 1 is the one who gave the first answer in the exam. And System 2 is the one who supervised and rechecked everything. And yes, you can ask questions at the end of the session. Let's finish the quiz first. I see here you immediately like someone within seconds of meeting them. Is this System 1 or System 2? I see faster answers. That's great. Everyone is saying 1. That's correct. Why is it System 1? First impressions are fast. The first impression you have about someone, about something, about anything you see. They're intuitive, they're emotionally driven. So System 2 might justify the impression later, but it didn't create it. The one who created the impression is System 1, and System 2 later evaluated on it and confirmed it. Let's see which one is the first one. You resist the urge to check your phone while studying. Is this System 1 or System 2? System 2 because it's hard, I know. It is hard. It is very difficult. Yes, impulse control requires effortful override. So that's System 2, suppressing System 1's temptation. So System 1 is the one who's telling you, check your phone. It's okay. You've got a notification, as I mentioned. If you get, an impulse or something or a signal, you look at it. Like I have on my phone here, and I just got a notification and I looked at it. So if I didn't look, then my System 2 won. And it was like, nope, we are suppressing System 1. We're not looking at it. And the next one is you defend your political opinion using logical arguments. Is this System 1 or System 2? I see here a lot of System 2. It can be logical. Yes. Now the answer is both, but mostly System 1 driving it. You're gonna think, why? We had to think about it. We needed to use logical arguments. I mentioned before, we are biased. What we believe in is the first answer we give without thinking about it. It's my political opinion. It's my political thoughts. And this is why this is the first answer I gave, because I believe in something and I am biased to my beliefs. And this is why actually I gave this answer. It's both, because you might be thinking logically about your own beliefs and you're not too driven or biased, or you're trying to make sense of what you're saying. And you might actually be giving the answer just because you believe in it. And this is why it can be System 1 or System 2, but mostly System 1 is driving it because it's your own beliefs. Now, the last one, you read familiar statement many times and begin believing it. Is this System 1 or System 2? One, any more answers? 2, 1, 2, 2. Oh, I have here mixed answers. Now, I need to disappoint many of you and make some of you happy. The answer is system 1, because repetition increases cognitive ease, as I mentioned before in the heuristics, and said that repetition actually is the one that makes cognition or cognitive ease increasing, because then, oh, it's repeated. I've done this multiple times. It's the same statement. You're reading it over and over again. And this is how it becomes one of your logical daily things. And this is how you believe in it more. And it gets included in your system 1 thoughts. And this is how it becomes actually, like the cognitive ease increases perceived truth, and this is how this becomes your new truth, because it got repeated a lot and you perceive this information. In Arabic we say like he made the lie and believed it, because it was repeated most of the time, and this is how it becomes part of your daily logical thoughts. Now you've just experienced the systems in action, and I'm very happy to see that much of correct answers. System 1 answers quickly. System 2 evaluates slowly. The problem isn't that system 1 exists, but the problem is when system 2 stays silent. So we need to try our best to activate our system 2 more in order to be more accurate in life. And, it's going to be in our own benefit. If you go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Yes, now I have like a closing word here. As I mentioned during the seminar, your mind is extraordinary. It's brilliant. It is efficient. It is adaptive. It is powerful, but it's not, neutral. So system 1 gives you fast impressions. System 2 gives you deliberate judgments. The key is not suppressing intuition, but it's in knowing when intuition is not enough. So that is awareness. This is actually what we are trying to achieve. That's metacognitive awareness is the beginning of wiser thinking. And if you go to the final slide, I would like to thank you all for participating into this session, this seminar, and I hope you've learned a new thing. If you have like a question, I would answer your questions before actually closing the session. And I assume there's someone who's going to translate for all of the students and summarize it. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Firstly, I would like to sincerely thank our respected guest speaker, Ms. Hadeel, once again for her valuable presentation. Your explanation was clear and engaging. We truly benefited from your knowledge. In addition, many participants appreciate your warm smile and your friendly, sociable personality.
Thank you.
Which made this session even more enjoyable and comfortable for everyone. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank you all participants for joining us today. Ms. Hadeel, if you don't mind, we can take 2 or 3 questions from the participants as it's Ramadan, and I understand that you may not have broken your fast yet. We will keep this part brief. After that, we can end the webinar.
Yes, that's great. I will answer questions. So if you have any questions, you can
اگر کدام سوال دارین میتونین بپرسین.
But please in English. I don't understand Persian. I see here Fatima. You can unmute yourself and ask a question or send it in the messages. It's not a problem. There is a question here in the messages that I ask. I am from Syria, but living in the Netherlands. I am a current student and working in the Netherlands. So I'm from Utrecht University. Sorry.
So
yes, tell me.
At the first, thank you very much for your efforts. The webinar was thoroughly and excellent. So I have a question.
Sure.
If the brain start making a decision before we are aware of it, does that mean consciousnesses only watch it what has already happened, or can consciousness actually change or influence the decisions from a neuro, neuroscience, point of the view, which brain networks are involved in the process?
Now, actually, in the process of thinking, almost all your brain is contributing because you're using all your senses actually when responding to a question. For example, if, as I mentioned, I have the example of something dropping or something making a noise, and you're looking at it, you're using all your senses, we're actually responding. So, system one and system two, as I mentioned at the beginning, is not relying on a specific like a brain region. They are more about everything together and how you are reacting to everything. So, for example, as you have mentioned, like you are conscious all the time, but you have, as I mentioned, you have cognition and you have metacognition. So you have how we think and you have how we think about how we think. I know that might sound stupid. I found out that I was like stupid when I first learned about it in college, but you have the system one is how you think. I told you. It's brilliant. You can be correct most of the time if you have like the correct judgments, but that doesn't mean that we are correct. It's just in a way to explain to people that if you're incorrect, it's okay because this is the way you believe and you are conscious when you give the example. But it's just like judgment and critical thinking and trying to think more about it might change your answer, but that doesn't mean you will change your answer. And this is how you increase accuracy rather than actually keeping yourself only confidence. You can be confident and accurate, but that doesn't mean they are the same thing. I hope that answered your question, but you are conscious and there's no specific brain region for that. Thinking and being a good rational thinker and have a good judgment about stuff that are happening and you're thinking about is a process that might include like all your brain regions. So it can be like more in depth into biology and stuff, but what we're explaining today is psychology, which is not biology at all. It's to understand why the human beings are acting and thinking the way they are. I hope that answered your question. Is there any other question? I see here. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name's incorrect. I have Masuma. If you wanna, like, I see here, like,
Yep. At the
yes.
first of hello, my mom. I hope you and your family are doing well and in a good health.
I
Thank you a billion for your a good seminar to us. I really appreciate. Thank you so much. I can know lots of information about our minds, thinkers, and other things. Thank you a billion. Dear mom, I have a question. I wanted to answer that.
sure.
So the question is, can relying too much on system one thinking prevent us from achieving long-term success? Why or why not?
Now, if you rely a lot on system one, then you're not thinking. You're just, like throwing answers based on your belief. You're just believing and not thinking. Because I can, as I told you, I can believe that the sky is purple, but never looking at the sky. But if I look at the sky and I make my brain works and I analyze the color and I think more about it, try to make sense of my answer, this is when I use system two. It's impossible to only rely on system one. We all rely on system two at a specific point, but it's just like our way of living our daily life without making our life too complex, too complicated. Like we call it like a peaceful life, but doesn't have to be accurate. This is when you rely on system one. Um, as I mentioned before, you have an expert who is like a chess player. They rely on system one when they play because they know the movement, but they used before a lot of system two to learn the movements and they reach a moment when they're experts and they only rely on system one. So relying more on system one, no, it won't help you achieving like a lot in life because you need to think in order to learn. And as long as you're learning, you're getting information from me, you're using system two because you're analyzing my words, you're learning new information. And after learning new information, you use a lot of system two. And if you learn it very well and explain it to someone else, afterwards you will be relying on system one. Please give an example. As I mentioned now, system one is you believe, for example, that the brain works only, it doesn't have like a logical explanation. It works because it works like that. Because science says that this, for example, this region area thinks, and this is why it thinks. But we need to understand more about the thinking and more about why do people think. And when you ask why, you're using system 2. When you're asking what, you're using system 2. As long as you're learning new information, you're using system 2. Using system 1 only means only relying on what you have learned until now, and saying to your brain, okay, I will never go to school. I will never think in my entire life. I will just keep this amount of information and rely on it. And this is when you only use system 1. But needing, like the need to learn new stuff and go to school, perceive new information and learn about new stuff, searching, like we all use Google to search for information. What time is it? Like you might not know what time is it in different language. You learn it because you search for it. This is when you use system 2 constantly to know the information. You save it in your head, you save it in your brain, and after you save it and it becomes easy because we repeated that a lot, it becomes system 1. It doesn't mean system 1 is now stupid. He's intelligent, he's smart with one extra information. System 2 is the one who brings you the new information and logical thinking and the analysis, and system 1 saves them and makes a habit out of them. Okay, this is logic, I know it. But you might know an incorrect answer. This is why system 1 isn't logical all the time. Now, I hope this answered your question. Is there any... I have here a question. Do you think your mindset affects your decision making, and how? Yes, your mindset actually affects your decision making because you're biased. As I mentioned before, since we are biased, for the ones who don't know what biased means, the word biased is, for example, I'll give you a real example from homes. I don't know if it's like the same in Afghanistan, but in Syria, moms tend to like boys more than girls in the house. And they're like, oh, I love all my children, but they do love boys more. We all can see it. So they are biased toward boys, even if they say, no, I like both of my children. I don't differentiate between them. But still, you can notice they shift their attention to them more. And this is why they are biased. How do you handle situations that challenge your way of thinking? Yeah, now let's focus on the decision making first. As I mentioned in this book, Thinking in this Fast and Slow. It's a fun book. It's not that thick. If you read it, it focuses more on decision making. How do you become a rational thinker? It explains it in a way of how to be a good gambler, but it's not to teach you how to gamble. It's just to teach you how businessmen actually accept the good deals and reject the bad deals, and how do they think in a way they don't rely on their own beliefs, but they try to make sense of what is happening so that they don't lose a deal. It's the difference between preferring losses or preferring gains. As human beings, we prefer gains over losses, and we feel more sad for losses than being happy for the same gain. This is actually the difference that you can learn from this book. We couldn't dive too deep into decision making in this seminar, but if you read this book, you'll learn a lot about that and how to become a better rational thinker, how to become better at decision making, and how actually to calculate all the possibilities. The possibilities of having something good, something bad, you can calculate them. This is how you use System 2 a lot, to dive more in depth into everything and get a more rational decision, be a better decision maker. We can never become a perfect decision makers, but we can learn how to be better decision makers. How can we train our System 2 to be more active? Ask why all the time. This lamp is on, why? I activated my brain. Oh, then my brain would have to think about, it's plugged in, there's electricity, this is why it's turned on. And just ask, search, ask, try to not, okay, yeah, I believe that the food, my mom, for example, is cooking potatoes right now because I smell potatoes. No, what is she cooking? That's the correct answer to keep System 2 active, because then I will need to go to the kitchen and think about it and see what she's making and learn more about the situation. This is how you keep the system 2 more active. Don't give the answer immediately. Think about why do you have this answer in your head. I'm not saying do never give intuitive answers. It's okay to know a lot of stuff and to give answers on a lot of stuff because you know a lot, because you're smart. Everyone is smart, as I told you, but that doesn't mean that every single answer you have is correct. So to become more rational thinker, to make better decisions, ask the question why every time before answering. When you ask it to yourself, you're going to search, or at least you're going to think for a second or two before giving the answer. And this is system to work because you made effort to rethink your answer to know whether it's correct or not. And the book's name is Thinking Fast and Slow. I don't know. I don't know if you can see it. It's Thinking. No, it's blurred. Yeah. Thinking Fast and Slow. It's for Daniel Kahneman. And it's like a cheap book. You can find it online for a very cheap price, but I'm not sure how the currency actually is different. But I assume you can find it for free online. I found it once for free online. So if you search for it, you can find it and read about it. Or you can watch just YouTube videos about Thinking Fast and Slow. I will type it in the comments. Just search for videos on YouTube about this book, and you can find a lot of animations and a lot of fun ways actually of explaining every single heuristic and every single topic that is discussed here in a fun, more fun way than reading a book. I'm not giving you assignments. I'm not giving you homework. I hate homework. I hate exams. So I'm not giving you anything. I'm here just to give a fun seminar. So if you want to read about it, the best option is to watch the YouTube animations about it. They make a lot of fun videos explaining them. Now, I'm going to ask this last question. How do System 1 and System 2 work together when making decisions? I explained it during actually this seminar. There is one example that I gave actually in the quiz, and that was, let me check which one that was. It was like you defend your political opinion using logical arguments. This is when you're trying actually to make a good decision about giving the correct answer while discussing your, political arguments and your logical arguments. You want to make sense of what you're saying without proving yourself wrong. And at the same time, you're giving an answer from your own beliefs. And this is how actually, as I mentioned, arguments may be constructed using System 2. But the motivation to defend the belief often comes from System 1. And this is how they both actually interfere when you're trying to think about something. And thinking about something is actually the first step into making decision. As I told you, the book dives more into making decisions. And if you read about it, just search for Thinking Fast and Slow Making Decisions. There's a lot of videos actually explaining that. Let me think. How do System 1 and System 2 explain why humans often make irrational financial decisions? What is irrational for you can be rational for me. For example, you can be a billionaire and make a rational decision according to you financially that is saying, I'm going to spend this amount of money, for example, to do something good for myself. That good thing for yourself can be bad for me. So rational thinking, if it's about something personal as financial decisions, it differs per person. So you cannot have one rule that is set for everyone. And this is why if you check the book and if you check, like the explanations mentioned in the book about how to make a better decision, they explain it they teach you how to tailor the decision making based on your own situation and not generally. So I would actually advise you to read the book so that you can tailor it based on your own situation. That was actually it from my side. Thank you very much for listening and being here, and I wish you all an amazing Ramadan. I hope that this Ramadan holds a lot of happiness for everyone and that you've all had an amazing and delicious meal today. And I'm going to have it after 1 hour because I'm still fasting. So thank you very much. And thank you for the wonderful teachers and everyone here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hadeel.
You're
And now,
welcome.
before we conclude, I would like to really share a few thoughts about today's topic, as most of them want to hear this beneficial information shortly in Persian also, to know better. So I will tell them from your information in Persian also for them, as so many of them asked for that. خب دوستای عزیز، من یک کم معلومات درباره این سمینار امروز براتون میتم. کسانی که ناوقت جان شدن و یا نفهمیدن انشالله که بعد از این بفهمن. خب این وبینار درباره که از موضوعات مهم روانشناسی شناختی بود که نشان میداد مغز ما دو نوع سیستم فکری داره. سیستم اول تفکر سریع و سیستم دوم تفکر آهسته بود. سیستم اول که تفکر سریع می باشه، این سیستم سریع، خودکار و بدون تلاش زیاد کار میکنه. وقتی چهره عصبانی که طرف فوراً تشخیص میدیم یا بدون فکر زیاد یک جواب به ذهن ما میآید، در واقع سیستم اول فعال است. این سیستم برای سرعت و بقا ساخته شده و همچنان گاه اوقات باعث اشتباه هم میشه، چون زود قضاوت میکنه و همیشه دقیق نیست. سیستم دوم تفکر آهسته می باشه. این سیستم آهسته تر، تحلیلی و نیازمند تمرکز است. این سیستم دوم باید تمرکز بکنه. وقتی یک مسئله ریاضی را حل میکنیم یا قبل از بردن امتحان جوابا را دوباره بررسی میکنیم، سیستم دوم همیشه فعاله. اما این سیستم انرژی معمولا مغز ما ترجیح میده که کمتر استفاده کنه. قسمی که در این سلاید ها همچنان درباره خطای فکری صحبت شد، مثلا اثر دسترسی availability. ما فکر میکنیم که چیزی که بیشتر در ذهن ما میاد بیشتر اتفاق میفته. دومش anchoring بود، اثر لنگر، که اولین عادت و یا اطلاعاتی که ما میشنویم روی تصمیم ما تاثیر بسیار زیاد میگذاره. سومش بود confirmation bias، سوگیری تاییدی. ما بیشتر دنبال اطلاعات میگردیم که نظر ما فقط رو تایید بکنه. و همچنان overconfidence، اعتماد به نفس پیش از حد بود. بعضی وقت ما خیلی مطمئن هستیم که جواب ما درست است، ولی همیشه مطمئن بودن ما به این معنی نیست که ما درست هستیم. یک سوال دیگه هم بود که چی وقت سیستم دوم ما فعال میشه. سیستم دوم ما وقت فعال میشه که موضوع مهم باشه، مسئولیت داشته باشیم، تعارض یا شک وجود داشته باشه و همچنان یک چیزی که ما را تعجب میکنه که ما را میگیم که این سرپرایزینگ بود. چیزی که ما را تعجب میکنه همیشه سیستم دوم ما فعال میشه. خب کوتاهش میکنیم که نتیجه گیری اصلی بود که سیستم اول بیشتر وقت ها فعال است و سریع تصمیم میگیره. سیستم دوم مثل یک ناظر عمل میکنه که وقت لازم باشه وارد میشه و مغز ما همیشه سیستم اول ترجیح میده. و پیام اصلی بود که خردمندی دائمی است که بدانیم